Close your eyes. Let your breath slow and deepen. Feel the night wrap softly around you. Long ago, in a land where the Nile flows like a river of stars, the people believed that truth and balance were the laws of the universe. In this land lived Ma'at, the spirit of justice and order. She was neither mortal nor God, but the invisible force holding all things steady. Her symbol was a single white feather, lighter than air, pure as a cloud. When a person died, their soul traveled to a great hall, a place where Osiris, the lord of the afterlife, sat in judgment. Beside him stood Anubis, the jackal-headed guide, and Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe. Here, the soul's heart was weighed against Ma'at's feather. If the heart was light and free of sin, the soul passed to the peaceful field of reeds. If heavy with lies and cruelty, the soul was devoured by Ammit, the fearsome beast of forgetting. Justice in Egypt was not punishment, but balance. Balance. The heart remembered every truth, every kindness, every betrayal. This belief shaped their world. From kings to commoners, all lived by the law of Ma'at. Truth, order, and harmony. In the bustling streets of ancient Egypt, justice was not just a distant idea, nor was it a fearsome force that ruled with anger. No, justice was a gentle rhythm, a sacred dance woven into every moment of daily life. It whispered through the marketplaces, where merchants traded with careful honesty. It echoed in the quiet conversations beneath the shade of palm trees. And it was carried on the lips of mothers teaching their children the way of truth. The people believed that Ma'at's feather was not merely a symbol of judgment after death, but a guide to living a balanced life. A light that shone on every choice, every word spoken, every action taken. The courts of Egypt were simple, but sacred, often open to the sky, bathed in golden sunlight, and surrounded by towering pillars, carved with stories of gods, kings, and the eternal laws they upheld. In these courts, there were no raised voices, no harsh punishments delivered in fury, only calm patience and the slow, deliberate search for truth. When disputes arose, whether over a stolen sack of grain, a broken promise between neighbors, or a disagreement over land boundaries, the people came together, not in anger, but in respect for Ma'at, the eternal balance. The wronged would speak first, their voice steady but weighted with pain, carefully recounting their story, knowing that every word mattered. Then the accused would tell their side, not with shouts or defiance, but with calm clarity, presenting facts, explanations, sometimes apologies. Witnesses were called, not to be questioned harshly, but to share what they had seen, what they had heard, their memories treated as sacred trust. The judge sat quietly, wearing the feather of Miat pinned to their robe, a reminder of the responsibility they bore. Their role was not to punish, but to restore balance, to weigh each word, each gesture, and find the truth that would bring harmony back to the community. If a farmer was caught stealing grain, the punishment was never cruel. Often, they would be asked to repay double the amount taken, not as revenge, but to mend the rift between neighbors, to restore these. If someone insulted a temple or desecrated sacred ground, they might be sent to serve the temple itself, not out of anger, but so they could learn respect, humility, and the meaning of Ma'at. Even the mighty Pharaoh, believed to be divine, was bound by these laws. For when he died, his heart would be weighed in the hall of two truths, just like any other soul. This belief shaped every corner of Egyptian life, from the towering temples built with perfect symmetry to the carefully planned cities and homes, to the quiet moments of family meals, where respect and fairness were taught as sacred duties. Ma'at was not just a law written on papyrus. It was a way of life, a promise between each soul and the universe, to live in truth, to act with fairness, to carry balance within the heart. Because through this sacred trust, Egypt endured for thousands of years. The Nile flowed steady and true. The people prospered. The stars above shone bright and unwavering. This was a world held together, not by fear, but by faith in the quiet power of justice. A single dispute can ripple across a village, changing the lives of many, like a pebble dropped into still water, its waves spreading slowly, endlessly, in a small town nestled beside the life-giving Nile. Two families once lived side by side, bound by tradition, but separated by growing tension. Their quarrel was over something simple, yet vital. A well, water, the source of all life. Clear, cool water drawn from the earth, flowing into their homes, their fields, their very souls. For years, the well had been shared, a common treasure. Its waters used by both families, in turns with respect and care. But as the seasons passed, drought came whispering across the land. The Nile's flow slowed, and the well's waters began to dwindle. One family claimed the other had taken too much, accusing them of greed, leaving their crops to parch beneath the unforgiving sun, leaving their children thirsty, their bellies hollow with hunger. Anger grew like a storm. Voices were raised. Words were spoken in hurt and frustration. Yet the elders of the village knew This was no time for quarrels. They called for calm, for patience, for justice. The dispute was brought before the local court, not a grand hall of marble, but at a simple space beneath the open sky, where the breeze carried the scent of papyrus and earth. The judge sat beneath the shade of a great sycamore tree, its branches heavy with leaves, a silent witness to the passage of time. Pinned to his robe was the feather of Math, a reminder of his sacred duty. He listened carefully to the first family story. The farmer who tended the well spoke of his long, lonely nights, keeping the water clean and clear, fearing that someone might steal it away in the dark. He told of his love for the land and the burden of responsibility that weighed on his shoulders. Then the mother from the other family spoke. Her voice was soft but steady. She described the parched fields behind her home, the cracked earth where green once grew, the hungry cries of her children, and the fear that without water, life would fade away. Neighbors stepped forward, their faces marked by sun and toil. They told what they had seen, watched the whales use, heard the corals whispered in the evening air. The judge asked questions, not to accuse, but to understand. He inquired about the wells used throughout the day, about the balance of giving and taking, about the needs of the community. His voice was calm, deliberate, like the slow, steady current of the Nile itself. The court did not rush. The words settled between the people, like dust in a sunbeam, quiet, tight, heavy with meaning. Finally, the judge spoke. The water of the well must be shared. In clear terms, a new schedule would be drawn, written carefully on papyrus, sealed by the elders as a sacred agreement. The family who had taken too much water would repay with grain, enough to feed the other family until the next harvest. But the judgment went beyond mere repayment. They were asked to come together again at the next full moon to share a meal beneath the stars, to speak kindly, to heal wounds, to restore harmony, to honor Maat. For in Egypt, justice was never simply about right or wrong. It was about balance, about the quiet restoration of peace, about weaving broken threads back into the tapestry of life as the villagers slowly dispersed. The sun dipped low behind the palm trees, casting long shadows across the gentle waves of the Nile. And somewhere unseen, Maat's feather hovered softly over them all, a silent guardian of truth and balance. Beyond the villages and simple courts, there was another world where justice lived. The royal courts of Egypt. God, here, under soaring pillars and beneath painted ceilings, pharaohs and high priests ruled, but even they bowed to Maat. The law was the thread that held the kingdom's heart together. binding people from the farthest deserts to the bustling cities by the Nile. In the royal court, disputes were more complex, involving wealth, power, and sacred duty. Yet the principle remained the same. Justice was balanced. One day, a case came before the court. A merchant from the Delta accused a nobleman of cheating him in trade, claiming the noble had tricked him, offering false weights and dishonest scales. The merchant's voice was steady but full of worry, for in Egypt, reputation was everything. A merchant who lost trust could lose everything: his goods, his standing, even his family's future. The nobleman, proud and assured, denied the claims. He spoke of honor, of years of fair dealings, and demanded proof. The judges, wise and calm, called for witnesses and evidence. They examined the scales, the weights, and the records of previous trades. Every detail was weighed carefully, not rushed, not swayed by power or wealth. The court understood that a single act of dishonesty could tip the balance of might, bringing chaos not just to the merchant and noble, but to the entire kingdom. After long deliberation, the judges found the nobleman guilty, but punishment was not swift vengeance. Instead, he was ordered to repay the merchant double the value lost, and to publicly acknowledge his wrongdoing. This was not humiliation. It was restoration, a way to heal the community's trust and bring order back to the land. The nobleman accepted the judgment. He knew that Ma'at's law was higher than pride or fear. It was the foundation of Egypt itself. And so, justice was served, not as punishment, but as balance, as harmony restored. The court of Ma'at was no ordinary place. It existed beyond the world of the living. Yet its influence shaped every moment of life on earth. This was the place where truth was absolute, where no lie could hide, where the heart was weighed, not just for what was done, but for what was felt deep within. When a soul arrived at the Hall of Two Truths, Osiris, the great judge, sat upon his throne. Around him stood gods and spirits, silent witnesses to the final balance. Anubis, the guardian with the jackal's head, gently lifted the heart, the seat of memory, feeling, and conscience. On the opposite side, the feather of Ma'at waited, pure, white, and impossibly light, the heart and feather balanced, or tipped. If the heart was light, free from deceit, cruelty, and corruption, the soul was allowed passage to the field of reeds, a paradise reflecting the best of Egypt. But if the heart was heavy, weighed down by lies, hatred, or injustice, the balance tipped. Amit, the devourer, waited silently, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, talked. Teak. Short. She did not shout or rage. She simply consumed the soul. erasing it from existence. This was the greatest punishment, not fire or torment, but oblivion, to be forgotten, to vanish completely. For the Egyptians, this truth shaped how they lived. Justice was not a tool of power or revenge, but the sacred law that kept the universe in order. Every act was weighed against Ma'at's feather, and every soul would one day stand before the court. No exceptions. Even the Pharaoh, who ruled as a god among men, would face this final judgment. This knowledge made the court of Ma'at not a place of fear, but a place of hope, a promise that truth would always prevail. The soul steps forward, trembling yet resolute, toward the hall of two truths. The great doors, carved with scenes of ancient law and cosmic balance, part silently before it. Inside, the walls are alive with stories, etched in stone, painted in gold, whispering secrets of justice and order through the ages. Osiris, seated on his throne of lapis lazuli, radiates calm authority. His gaze pierces beyond the surface, seeing the very essence of truth hidden in every heart. Anubis moves without sound, his hand steady and sure. He takes the heart, not just flesh or blood, but the vessel of memory, thought, and conscience. The heart beats one last time, echoing with all the life it once carried. With every choice made, every kindness offered, every betrayal hidden deep within. Across the hall, the feather of Ma'at waits, pure white, perfect, impossible to weigh down. The scales hang heavy with destiny, suspended between mercy and justice. The air grows still. Time stretches thin as the heart is placed upon the scale. All eyes, gods and spirits alike, watch in silent reverence. If the heart balances the feather, light as truth itself, then the soul is free to pass to the field of reeds, where peace flows like the gentle Nile, and eternal harmony reigns. But if the heart sinks beneath the weight of untruths, the scales tip. At the base of the scale, Emmet stirs, part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus. The devourer waits patiently, ready to consume the unworthy. She does not roar. She does not rage. She simply consumes. And the soul is no more. This erasure is not vengeance, but the ultimate loss, oblivion. No name, no memory, no legacy. It is the fate that taught the living the sacredness of justice, to honor Ma'at in every breath, every deed. The cord of Ma'at was the final balance, a eternal truth that shaped all of life and death. And in that balance, the soul's story was written, not just on papyrus or stone, but in the stars themselves. For the living, the court of Ma'at was never far from their thoughts. Each day was a step on the path toward the Hall of Two Truths. In every whispered prayer, in every act of kindness, in every word spoken with honesty, they carried Ma'at within their hearts. Priests performed ancient rituals, chanting sacred hymns beneath towering temple ceilings, calling upon the gods to guide and protect the souls on their journey. Families gathered to offer food and gifts to the departed, hoping their loved ones' hearts would be found light and true. Children learned from an early age to walk the path of balance, to honor their parents, to care for the land and their neighbors. The scales of justice were not distant or cruel, but a quiet reminder that every choice mattered, that balance must be maintained. Even the mighty pharaohs, draped in gold and power, knew their hearts would one day be weighed, and so they ruled with Ma as their guide. Their laws, their judgments, their very lives were reflections of the cosmic order they hoped to uphold. And when the time came for their final journey, the great leaders were prepared, their tombs filled with spells and prayers, words to help the soul face the court with courage and truth. The story of Ma'at was the story of Egypt itself, a story of balance, justice, and eternal harmony. So as the Nile flows endlessly through the desert, as the stars burn quietly in the night sky, the feather of Ma'at waits, silent, steadfast, ready to weigh every heart that comes before it. Once the heart has been weighed and the soul has passed the sacred scales, a new path opens, leading beyond the court of Ma'at into the eternal field of reeds. This was no ordinary place. It was the soul's true home, a paradise where the river flows gently, where crops grow effortlessly, and where loved ones wait with open arms. Here, the soul found rest, free from the burdens of the mortal world. No hunger, no pain, only peace. But reaching the field of reeds was not simply a reward. It was the fulfillment of a life lived in balance, a life aligned with Ma'at's truth. In this realm, the soul was reunited with family, with friends, with all who had walked the path before. They shared stories beneath endless sky, their voices soft as the wind. Time lost meaning here. Days stretched into endless dawns, and the sun shone gently, never scorching, always warm. The field of reeds was both a mirror and a promise, a reflection of the perfect harmony the Egyptians sought in life. It was a place where justice was not punishment, but peace restored. And yet, the journey did not end there, for the soul, even in paradise, carried the memory of its earthly choices, the truth of Ma'at inscribed forever in its heart. It was a sacred trust, one that bound the living and the dead, the seen and the unseen, in an eternal dance of balance. And so, from the earliest dawns of Egypt to the twilight of its last pharaohs, the court of Ma'at remained the heart of their belief, a timeless secret whispered on the winds of the desert, a reminder that in all things, truth and justice must prevail. Back in the world of the living, Ma'at's presence was everywhere, woven into the rhythm of the Nile, carved into the stones of temples, and echoed in the voices of the people. From the smallest village to the grandest city, life moved to the quiet pulse of balance. Farmers rose with the dawn, tending fields with care, knowing the land was a gift to be honored, not taken for granted. Merchants in bustling markets weighed their goods fairly, offering honest prices, for trust was the currency that kept their world turning. Families gathered around warm fires, teaching children the ways of truth, to speak kindly, to act justly, to carry Ma'at within their hearts. Even the mighty Pharaoh, seated upon his throne of gold, ruled with the sacred law of balance as his guide. His decrees were not made lightly, for he knew his own heart would one day be weighed. Just like every other soul, justice was not a distant ideal, but a living, breathing force, felt in every handshake, heard in every prayer, seen in every act of fairness. And when disputes arose, as they always do among people, the courts of Egypt became sanctuaries of calm. Here, beneath open skies or in shadowed halls, judges listened without haste or anger. Their goal was not punishment, but restoration, to weave broken bonds back together, to bring peace where there was conflict, beyond the hall of two truths, in the soft embrace of the field of reeds, the soul finds rest. Yet the story of Ma'at does not end with the final judgment, for her presence flows through the world of the living like the ever-moving Nile, constant, patient, unyielding. Each dawn, as the sun spills golden light across the desert sands, the people rise to greet the day with reverence. Their hearts carry the memory of Ma'at's feather, a silent reminder that every breath, every step, every word carries weight. In the cool morning air, farmers tend to their fields with hands steady and sure. They plant seeds not just for crops, but for harmony, for the promise that life will continue, balanced between earth and sky. The merchants in the bustling markets move with care, their scales tipped only by truth. They know that dishonesty may bring short gain, but it unravels the delicate fabric of trust that holds the world together. In homes shaded by date palms, mothers and fathers teach their children the ancient laws, to honor the gods, to speak honestly, to care for one another. These lessons ripple outward, weaving the invisible threads of justice into every corner of Egyptian life. Even in moments of anger or sorrow, the people seek balance. They remember Ma'at's law, that harsh words and cruel acts weigh heavy on the heart, tipping the scales toward darkness. And so, forgiveness is offered like water to parched soil, gentle, necessary, and life-giving. At the temples, the priests chant the sacred hymns of Ma'at, their voices rising in calm waves. They call upon the gods to watch over the people, to guide their hearts toward truth and fairness. The priests themselves carry the feather close, reminding all who will listen that justice is not merely an act, but a way of being. For even the mighty Pharaoh, crowned in gold and seated upon a throne carved from stone, walks the path of Ma'at. His decrees are measured with care, his judgments tempered by the understanding that his own heart will one day face the scales. The kingdom, vast and eternal, breathes in rhythm with this cosmic order. In every grain of sand, in every star that lights the desert night, Ma'at's balance endures. And in the quiet moments between day and night, when the world holds its breath and the veil between worlds grows thin, the living whisper prayers to the souls who have passed. They ask that their loved ones' hearts remain light, that Mayat's feather find perfect harmony with their memory, and that, through the sacred balance of justice, all souls may find their way home. Beyond the prayers and quiet hopes, life itself moved as a living reflection of Ma'at's law. The Nile, ancient and ever-flowing, carried the story onward, its waters weaving a tapestry of balance through the heart of Egypt. Fishermen cast their nets with gentle care, knowing the river's gifts must never be taken in greed. Each fish caught was a blessing, a gift earned with respect, and the nets were lifted slowly with gratitude. No, the waters could breathe and renew. In the villages, artisans crafted beauty with steady hands, sculptors shaping stone, painters mixing colors from the earth, weaving stories of gods, kings, and the eternal dance of justice. Their works were offerings, symbols of order made visible, reminders that harmony was not just thought, but lived and created with every act. As the sun climbed high, children played beneath the shade of palm groves, their laughter light as the feather of Ma'at itself. They ran with joy, their small feet stirring dust that shimmered gold, learning the sacred dance of balance, not through books or laws, but through the very rhythm of life. Even the desert winds carried Ma'at's whispers, soft murmurs over sand dunes, reminding travelers and dreamers alike that the world is held by delicate hands, and every choice echoes in eternity. At night, under the vast dome of stars, families gathered around fires, sharing stories passed down through generations. They spoke of gods and spirits, of justice not as harsh law, but as gentle guide, a light to lead the heart home. And as they spoke, the flames flickered, casting shadows that danced like the feather's flight. weightless, pure, and unbroken. The priests of the temples, keepers of ancient wisdom, rose before dawn, their chants filling the air like the Nile's song. With every hymn, they wove protection and blessing for the souls journeying to the hall of two truths. They called upon Osiris, Anubis, and Thoth, asking for fairness, mercy, and clarity in the weighing of hearts. Each soul's journey was sacred, and the living honored this path with offerings of bread, wine, and flowers, tokens of hope that balance would be found and peace granted beyond mortal life. Yet Ma'at's law was not confined to death alone. It shaped the very foundation of society. Kings ruled with justice, their words measured and wise, knowing their power was a trust granted by the gods and people alike. The scribes recorded laws and stories with painstaking care, each hieroglyph a thread in the vast fabric of order. Their ink did not merely tell of events, but sang the eternal truth. That justice was the pulse beneath the heart of Egypt. And in the silence of the desert nights, when the stars spun slowly overhead, those who walked the earth felt the presence of Ma'at. Ekus, the invisible balance holding all things steady. The feather, ever light, was a promise that no shadow could fall forever. No lie remained unchallenged, and that truth, like the Nile, would always find its way. So close your eyes once more and breathe in the stillness of this ancient world. Let the spirit of Ma'at wrap gently around your heart, reminding you, as it did the people of Egypt, that in every moment you carry the power of balance to choose kindness, truth, and harmony, and to rest, knowing the universe itself holds you in just measure. Sleep now, beneath the silent stars, held by the timeless core of Ma'at, where every heart is heard, every soul is weighed, and justice is the song of eternity. As dawn broke over the endless desert, the light spilled gently across the ancient temples, casting long shadows that stretched like fingers of the past, reaching toward the present, toward you. The city awoke slowly, its streets alive with the soft hum of morning rituals. Priests in flowing robes carried incense, the fragrant smoke curling upward, weaving prayers with the breeze. They moved like whispers, guardians of sacred order, their every step a part of the eternal rhythm of Ma'at. In the heart of the city, the great temple stood, a monument to balance carved from stone and gold. Its towering columns bore the stories of gods and mortals alike, each image a lesson, a reminder of the law that ruled all life. Here, the people gathered, not just to worship, but to learn the delicate art of justice. Young scribes studied the ancient texts, their fingers tracing hieroglyphs that told of fairness and truth. They learned that justice was not harsh punishment, but the careful mending of the fabric that held their world. Outside the temple, a crowd had formed. A dispute had been brought forth, delicate and tense. A young woman, her eyes steadied despite the weight she carried, stood before the judges. She had been accused of breaking a sacred promise, an act that could unravel the trust of her entire community. The judges, wise elders cloaked in robes adorned with Maat's feather, listened without haste or judgment. Each word spoken was like a stone laid carefully in a foundation, building a structure of understanding, not fear. The woman spoke with calm honesty, telling of circumstances that led her to this moment, revealing fears and hopes intertwined. Her voice was steady, and in it the truth shimmered, not perfect, but sincere. Witnesses stepped forward, offering memories like threads of a tapestry, some bright, some shadowed by time and perspective. The court wove these stories together, seeking the balance that could heal rather than divide. After hours of patient listening, the judge rose. His voice was gentle, yet carried the weight of certainty. He spoke of forgiveness, responsibility, and the sacred trust of Ma'at. He reminded all that balance was restored not by punishment alone, but by understanding, by repair, and by hope. The young woman was asked to make amends, not as a burden, but as a step toward harmony. She would share her skills with the community, helping to rebuild what was lost, and in doing so, weave new threads of trust. As the crowd dispersed beneath the setting sun, there was no bitterness, only a quiet peace. The law of Mi'ad had worked its gentle magic once more, turning conflict into connection, pain into growth. And far beyond a city's walls, beneath the endless desert sky, the stars began their nightly dance. They shimmered with ancient light, bearing witness to the unbroken chain of justice woven through time like the rippling waters of the Nile. Tonight, as you drift deeper into sleep, imagine yourself walking those golden streets, feeling the steady pulse of Ma'at within your own heart. Know that you are part of this eternal story, a story where truth is honored, where balance guides every step, and where every soul, like the stars above, shines with its own quiet light. Rest now in the tender embrace of justice, and let yours carry you gently. To the field of reeds, where peace flows like the river's song, and harmony reigns forevermore. Rest now in the tender embrace of justice, and let your dreams carry you gently. To the field of reeds, where peace flows like the river's song, and harmony reigns forevermore. Feel Ma'at's feathered light upon your heart, a quiet guide through night and day, reminding you that balance lives within, and every choice is a step toward truth. Sleep deeply beneath the watchful stars, held safe in the eternal dance of justice until dawn awakens you once more to walk the path with a steady heart